We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Terence Crawford finally responds to Teofimo Lopez. He says, F Teofimo Lopez. No more, no less. He kept it real brief. He said, Teo. That's what I want to talk about right now in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, Terence Crawford was in the house at the weigh-in. They did a weigh-in for the fight tonight. Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz. I truly think this is a good fight. I think some people are sleeping on the fight and they're just considering it a blowout. See, this is what I notice about boxing. A lot of times, everybody's a bum when the fans don't know that particular fighter, right? People say, oh, that guy's a bum. But the guy's not a bum. You just don't know boxing and you never heard of him, right? Or sometimes you have these radical predictions because a particular alleged boxing fan has never seen the fighter fight, or they haven't seen many fights of him, right? So they'll just say the more popular guy, the more known about guy, they know what he can do, but they don't really know what the opponent can do because they haven't really watched enough boxing. And I think that's the case. Teofimo, definitely the bigger name, the bigger draw in terms of, you know, all things considered. But at the end of the day, I've seen both fighters fight. I think it's a good fight. I think Jermaine Ortiz, he'll probably look better at this weight. I don't know how he was making 135. He looks way too big, and he was like draining out. So people bringing up, oh, Antonio Moran hurt you and things like that. I think he was weight drained. You know, he was draining himself at the lighter weight classes. That's my personal opinion. Now, Teofimo did defeat Jermaine Ortiz in the amateurs, but nonetheless, it should be a great fight tonight. I will do a watch party, so make sure you guys come back to the channel and, you know, we'll watch the fight. Keyshawn Davis as the co-main. Now back to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford was there clearly in support of his trainer, Bomac, who trains Keyshawn Davis, and Keyshawn Davis, you know, he was there to support. Reporters at the weigh-in, they heard all the stuff in recent memory that Teofimo has said regarding Crawford's name. So when the reporters seen Terence Crawford right there, they said, how did you think Teo looked on the... And then Crawford walked away and said, you hear him say clearly, F Teofimo. Like, I ain't answering no questions about that dude. And, you know, rightfully so. Teo has talked he talked crazy. You know, he's had a lot to say about Terence Crawford. He said Crawford's a fake fighter. Well, he didn't say he's a fake fighter. He says that Terence Crawford has had basically assistants. Terence Crawford is always fighting somebody with some kind of ailment, always fighting guys that are handicapped, always fighting guys where there's marked advantages for Crawford, you know? And to a degree, there are a lot of Crawford opponents where you could say that was the case, where Terence Crawford truly did fight somebody and they had something going on. Now, Crawford, he's a disciplined fighter. He's a great fighter. He's a skilled fighter. So it's not really Crawford's fault that said fighter has X, Y, and Z going on at the time in which he fought him. But I'm not here to discuss the parameters. I'm here to discuss the truth. Teo is barking and saying this. Is it true? And the reality is, it is. There are, like, Jose Benavidez got shot in the leg. That's a fact. You can get mad. Oh, you're hating on Crawford. How am I hating on Crawford? Because Jose Benavidez, in his personal life, got popped and shot in the leg and was out of the sport. Because y'all have to keep this in mind. I've been in boxing for a long time, so I know my stuff. Benavidez was truly, he was a name before David Benavidez. And when you heard the names, people at the time, they thought Jose had more promise than David Benavidez possibly, because he was further along in his career. But here's the other caveat. Jose Benavidez Jr., he was a 140 pounder and he was with Top Rank. He had a very difficult fight with Mauricio Herrera, and shortly, I thought he lost that fight, to be honest. Shortly after that, he got shot in the leg, and then he was gone for like 2 years or whatever, rehabbing his leg. And, you know, they said he would never be able to walk again, so he had to start anew, you know? So credit to him for bouncing back and continuing his career. But then he got with Top Rank again, you know, was ready to resume his career. And now, instead of campaigning at 140 pounds, he decided he was moving up to 147. Top Rank gave him the Top Rank special, gave him pretty much 2 tune-ups with no hopers. And I'm not even mad at that per se, because if you've been gone for 2 years, you're in a new weight class, you know, you want to become familiar with that. The problem is Terence Crawford and Jose Benavidez at one of these fights had a run-in. They had an altercation. And Crawford famously said, focus on your fight before you don't make it to your fight. And it looked like Terence Crawford and Jose Benavidez was finna chunk him right there outdoors, you know, at this other fight. Crawford said, focus on your fight before you don't make it to your fight. And based on that clip, it went viral. I made videos about it, and the clip went viral of Terence Crawford and Jose Benavidez's altercation, and Top Rank capitalized on that. The man only had 2 tune-ups, and then they decided, we don't have anyone else for Crawford. We're not giving him Pacquiao. So they gave him Jose Benavidez. And it was a good build-up, and it was a good fight. You know, I was at the fight. It was pretty tough for Crawford in the first half of the fight. But Crawford, doing what Crawford does, he finds a way to win, you know. But it doesn't take away, and I got to give you guys sometimes the backstory, because there's a lot of boxing fans who, they'll argue with you all day. Oh, Ego, you're wrong, and that's not true. And they weren't even watching boxing to even remember that breakdown. So y'all must have forgotten, in the words of Roy Jones Jr. So it's not taken away from Crawford saying he's talented or taken away from his talent. But the reality is, most people, or a lot of people, however you want to phrase it, think that Errol Spence looked like he had some things going on outside of just Terence Crawford is a great fighter and beat him, you know? So what T.O. said, that aspect is pretty much true. Kell Brook, we know he had battered eyes from the Triple G fight, battered eyes from the Errol Spence fight, both of his eyes, and he fought depression. That's when Crawford got these fights. Like, you know what I mean? You can say whatever you want, but that's the time in which these fights landed on his desk and he took the fight. That it is what it is. I'm not saying that the outcome would have been different. See, this is the thing. People, they don't like, we live in a world where people do not like to hear the truth. It doesn't matter how truthful you're being. It doesn't matter how honest you are. If you tell the truth, such as myself, they say you're hating. I have no reason to hate on any fighter. We get money. No reason to hate on anyone. I followed Crawford's whole career. I've enjoyed his career. Facts over feeling. We now live in a society where people, whether you're doing good, you're doing bad, people always gonna have something to say. So me personally, it comes easy. I ain't never worried about that. I'm not trying to say the perfect things, or I'm not trying to say things to gain your favor. I don't care. Crawford, he can fight. He's a beast. But what T.O. said, there's truth to it. You know, David Avanesian, I don't know that he had a handicap, but I mean, just the fight happening was handicap. You know what I mean? Because no one gave David Avocado a shot at beating Crawford. And he got pulled from another fight just to get KO'd by Crawford. So kind of weird, you know, that Crawford and his team, they keep saying like Boots is a lose-lose situation. We want the big fish and, you know, the big fights and the bigger and better opportunities. Really, off of the Errol Spence victory, that's one fight out of whatever. Crawford got like 40 fights. That's one fight, right? I don't think Boots should be out of the equation when you literally fought this man that I'm seeing on the screen. Or I'm showing you on the screen. David Avocado. You literally fought him within your last 2 fights, but now the Boots fights is just out of the question. Makes 0 sense to me. As far as Teofimo Lopez, I am a fair and honest critic in this world of boxing. Me personally, T.O. is putting a lot of pressure on himself because we don't even know if you get past Jermaine Ortiz, and if you do, how you're going to look in doing that. People always say stuff like, oh, Ego, you're biased. Again, it's always hate when you say something that people don't want to hear. But the reality is, I'm not knocking T.O. for wanting to fight Crawford. But if they did fight, I'm definitely favoring Terence Crawford based on what I've seen. But hey, I could be wrong. But for me, T.O.'s too inconsistent. Crawford isn't. Crawford gives you consistently, gives you a Crawford performance. T.O., he mess around, fight Sandor Martin, get dropped twice. He mess around and lose to George Kambosos. I can't trust that. Terence Crawford, no matter who he's been in, the fights look the same. And again, T.O. putting a lot of pressure on himself because the way you're talking about beating Crawford and you want to fight Crawford and you haven't even got past Jermaine Ortiz tonight, it's going to be all eyes on you. Crawford is clearly going to be there. He's there supporting Bomac and supporting Keyshawn Davis. So the pressure is definitely on Teofimo. Anytime you're a talker, the pressure is on you, you know, and Teofimo and his dad, they definitely do that. They say some things that are insane, in my opinion, but we'll see. You know, Teofimo, historically, in the bigger fights, he has backed it up, like the Lomachenko fight and the Josh Taylor, namely. He's looked really sharp in those fights. You know, even the Comey fight, he made him do the stanky leg. Do the stanky leg. Do the stanky leg. You know what I mean? But Crawford, to me, is another level. New level, new devil. But hey, you know, let's see how Teofimo looks tonight versus Jermaine Ortiz. I'm just giving you, as of me recording this video, I would favor Crawford to beat Teofimo. He's the guy who was undisputed. He's the guy with more fights at 147. And again, he's the more consistent fighter. You consistently get Crawford performances from Crawford, and he's disciplined. You know, he's not a basket case in terms, like T.O. says some weird, ESPN can keep the blacks and these weird things. And sometimes him and his dad say stuff, I don't know if they truly believe it. Crawford, he says he's nice. I think he really believes in himself. He believes like no one could beat him. You know what I mean? I don't think he doesn't believe that. T.O. and his dad, again, they say some stuff and I'm like, I don't think he really believes what he just said. Like T.O. Sr. just did an interview for this fight week and he said that my son is undefeated. You don't believe that. You know he lost to George Kambosos. And then he said something like, oh, you fought the sick T.O. Man, sick T.O., healthy T.O., sickle cell T.O., whatever you want to say. T.O., you fought, you got an outcome. Kambosos beat you, period. So, you know he ain't undefeated. Now, I'd be remiss to not mention this. Yeah, let your boy Ego cook. Give the drummer something. I find it funny from the Bud Buddies that Terence Crawford has incessantly called out Canelo, payday, you want payday, I know that. Alvarez, in recent memory, he keeps saying, I want it, I'm going Super Saiyan, give me Canelo, let me feast. He's saying all these things, right? To make that fight a reality, Terence Bud Crawford would be moving up 3 weight classes. 3 weight classes to fight against Canelo Alvarez because he just fought Errol at 147. So hypothetically, if it happened Cinco de Mayo, he would have to move up 3 weight classes. And the Bud Buddies celebrate this. Yeah, he could whoop Canelo and and give Bud the fight. But then I also see the Bud Buddies who are like laughing at Teofimo Lopez and saying he don't deserve Crawford and things like that. So people let their biases show. Let me put this together for you. Let me paint the picture for you. They let their biases show because how come Teofimo moving from 140 to 147 to challenge himself against Bud Crawford? That's 7 pounds. That's 7 pounds. Bud Crawford, if he were to move up to fight Canelo Alvarez he already told you, Canelo said, I'm not moving down at all. I refuse to move down for Bud Crawford. Not going to happen. So that means Bud at 147 would have to bypass junior middleweight 154, bypass middleweight 160, and go all the way up to 168, which is 21 pounds. So how is it crazy for Teofimo, even though I just told you I would favor Crawford to beat Teo, but I'm just saying, let's be realistic here. It's insane for Teo to fight Crawford with a 7-pound weight gain. And Teo clearly has a frame, he's muscular and stuff. So he can make that 140 to 147 jump, I firmly believe, because Teofimo looked bigger than Floyd, and Floyd has success at 147. And Pacquiao, he definitely bigger than Pacquiao. So Teofimo definitely has the frame where he could, if he wants, fight at welterweight. But again, the Bud Buddies have no problem with Bud Crawford moving up 21 pounds to fight Canelo, but they're laughing at Teo for trying to move up 7 pounds and fight Bud. It's like, how can you do that? You can't have your cake and eat it too. So if we're going to condone Bud moving up 21 pounds, which is unheard of, 3 weight classes, I mean, it's not out of the question for Teofimo Lopez to be fighting against Bud Crawford. Even if you think there's a skill disparity there and Bud Crawford is on another planet. Because some people believe that Canelo is skilled enough plus a 3 weight division head start in terms of the weight. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know if Bob Arum and Terence Crawford are on that type of time where they would want to work together, but I would pay for it, Terence Crawford and Teofimo. I ain't going to hold you. I would definitely pay for the fight. Let me know if you would pay for the fight. Subscribe to the channel. I am the best in the business, and it's not even close.